Clark of Storehouse Media. Sherrie, how are you? And who is our guest today?
Hi, Neil. I'm doing great. Thanks. I am excited about our guest, super impressed by him, Gary Pinkerton. And why am I so impressed with him? Well, not only is he a wealth strategist, but he's a veteran, he's a best-selling author, a business owner, a real estate investor. But when I first met him, he likes to tell the backstory, which really got me because I'm a backstory kind of person. He'll tell you I'm all about the backstory. But he's right. That's what leads into what you do. He's passionate about business, reducing taxes, and helping clients grow. He's a U.S. Naval Academy graduate, where he later taught ethics as a senior professor. He commanded the nuclear attack submarine USS Tucson and was a Pentagon Joint Chiefs Division director. All very impressive, Gary. So welcome to the
Thank
show.
you. Thank you. I'm excited to be on the show.
Yeah, yeah. So, Gary, you said that you're a huge fan of the American way and the American dream. You put
Yeah.
that, explain to listeners and viewers, what do you mean by that?
Well, I'm sure we're going to be talking a lot about this in 2026 because it's our 250th anniversary, right? And 250 years ago, it was seen as this exotic or crazy experiment, right? So it was the first place on the planet where the people in power said, "Hey, let's memorialize our thoughts," which is that we created a country where the people are in charge and all of our rights are imbued by God, not by the person with the power and the guns. And it was unprecedented around the globe. And clearly, it has been an incredible success in that if you give people ownership for the hard work that they do, whether that is their farm or their business or the products or their real estate or whatever, then they will work much harder for it. And they will become very abundantly minded and they'll help other people and it will just grow and populate, right? And so that was the experiment. And it has been challenged over the years, obviously, but and I felt like 10 years ago when I was getting at this crossroads at my time in the Navy, what I want to focus on, it was freedom. It wasn't just being a senior military officer. It was more about preserving that 250-year-old experiment. So that's what I'm all about.
That's fantastic. And again, as thank you for your service, as I talked about in the green room. And my
Yeah,
father graduated from the Naval Academy in 1949, number two in the Naval Academy.
cool. Oh
So
my gosh,
he
I did
passed
not do
away. He
that.
worked with Admiral Rickover.
Nice.
So he passed away about 5, 6 years ago. But again, he told me stories. And you were in submarines. So
Yeah.
that's an intriguing thing, as my father was. He was on with Admiral Rickover. He had one story of driving a submarine, and he said they didn't let him do it after that.
Yeah, it can be a little complex.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But
Wow.
that's so funny. But yeah, you were part of the Joint Chief of Staff. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's just interesting the paths you take. I didn't I didn't even think I was going to Washington D.C. Although I was told like if your command tour is successful, you have to go to Washington D.C. and you have to serve on the Joint Staff, work for the Joint Chiefs. Because we're really focused on making our senior officers experienced and knowledgeable about the other services and being able to lead a purple, what we call purple. I guess they took all the colors of the uniforms, put them together, and it became purple. So we're the purple force if you know how to work and are educated and experienced in working on the joint staff. So it's really just kind of this thing that's inevitable thing that's going to happen at some point in your career before you're 25 years in. So I had successfully, I always, kind of joke, I successfully avoided it until I was in the command tour. The command tour was going well, and they said, listen, you have no choice. And so my wife actually, we were in Hawaii, and she and the boys wanted to get back to the mainland because she wanted to kind of get her new career started. She's a nurse now, was an engineer before, and took time off to raise our boys. And this education system over there was not the greatest in the kind of middle school era. So she said, let's move back while you go on your deployment. And where do we go though? And so I was like, well, let's go to Virginia because I have a feeling I'm going there. And so of course I did. And it was interesting though because they threw my name in a hat and because I wasn't around to say no. I was like traveling across the U.S. and my new group there on the joint staff and they threw my name in and said, hey, somebody's got to go interview at the Naval Academy to work for the superintendent. And they threw my name in and said, look, you won. Like And so I went, and I absolutely loved that time. So I put it on hold 1 year, and then I went back, and I was at the Pentagon Joint Chiefs for 2 years. It was incredible. As always seems to happen, you get pulled out of the bullpen to do your boss's job. And so I was doing this one star general's job, and it was incredible. The exposure I got to senior military leadership. I mean, they're just amazing people. I felt like we were making a difference. I mean, it was really very cool, very rewarding of an experience. And then after that, like the riches just kept coming, and I had the opportunity to go teach ethics to a bunch of young, bright minds at the Naval Academy and get them started on the right foot. So some really rewarding, I would say, last 7 or 8 years of my career. I mean, the whole thing was great, but the last started with an amazing command tour with a great submarine and some incredible people. Doing great missions in the Pacific, and then a couple times short trips at the Naval Academy and at the Pentagon. Just amazing ways to end up my career.
Then how did teaching help you in what you do today as an entrepreneur?
Well, you know, I met a guy named Robert Kiyosaki, and he wrote a great book that many people know about, which is, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And as I got to know him personally on several cruises together, real estate focused education cruises that I've done, he said, the most important thing is to teach at an eighth grade level or lower if you possibly can. And I found myself even doing that with the midshipmen at the Naval Academy. I mean, ethics can get to become a very leadership in ethics can be very complex and nuanced kind of stuff that can get difficult. But if you can keep it down to the like application level, and so that's what I've really tried to do with my world of personal finance. And so I focus on helping real estate investors and business owners increase the freedom and agency in their world. Really because my belief and my concept is that if we can strengthen and hold strong the family unit, then we can keep America's experiment going. Because really, if we give people those rights that we promise them, and we allow them to set up their lives so that they can control their own livelihood, they can make enough goods and services and to be able to live the life that they want to live, then really it goes back to a country that's ran by the people, and people go to work to serve the people, right? And so I've felt a world of service the entire time I was in the military, and I still feel like that, right? So I serve my clients with as dumb, I wouldn't say dumbed down, that's probably disrespectful, but as simplified as I possibly can in application of how to make their business and their family finances as successful as possible.
Awesome. As an author, and I work with other authors, that's what I tell them, write on a sixth to ninth grade level.
Yeah.
People usually read books, entertain, or they're teaching, but even in teaching, as you said, simplify it more so people can understand it, digest it better, because you don't know where they're coming from,
Right.
where they're at in that journey of, being, needing it simple or not. So it's always better to go simple than not. So
Mm.
you move forward, and you 30 years, right, in the Navy, and then you start your own company,
Mm.
your own wealth strategy. What happened? How did that come about?
Well, I think that God, points the spot beam where He wants us to head, and so I'm in command of my submarine during the Great Recession from 2009 to 11. I had already, I always kind of, this is somewhat joking, but I think science backs it up that the male human brain doesn't really get mature until we're almost 30, right? And so for my entire 20s, I'm working hard on career progression, not paying much attention to my family, my kids, and I started to realize as I was going into command, almost 40 at this point, that I was living an opposite life of what my father had lived for me, right? So he didn't have any financial wealth to pass to us. We lost our entire farm in the stagflation of the 70s and early 80s, and we were, like, we weren't homeless, but we were living for free on my uncle's land in a rundown trailer. And he had nothing monetary to pass to us, yet legacy, which is what you leave inside people, I say. He just nonstop poured that into me because I was around him all the time, and he never failed to take a moment to teach me something about how to do something or how to treat people. I saw him take amazing care of people who couldn't pay their rent for a small property that we had, and he was just kind and godly, I would say, in that perspective. So I was realizing that I was spending all my time trying to create monetary wealth so my boys didn't have to wear hand-me-down clothes, yet I was leaving nothing inside them. So I wanted to reverse that and start spending time around them. So I'd already kind of planted that seed that I was going to leave the Navy early and not fight for becoming an admiral or whatever down the road past that. Well, God enabled that because I had built quite a bit of financial wealth in the, I started off like negative $2,000 net worth when I joined the Naval Academy and close to $1 million when I got to command 20 some years later. But it was really because the 90s was just this massive run up in the markets and I was getting paid well and we spent nothing. And so I was like, I have enough money to go do this. Well, the Great Recession happens while I'm in command, paying zero attention to my financial life. And when I leave the military, I'm now, or not leave, but when I finish command, I have like less than half of what I started that command tour with 2 years earlier. And the most compelling thing to me was that no advisor called, emailed, texted, stopped by to talk to my wealth, even my wife, or even sent a letter. Like no involvement at all. And so I realized that no one is looking out for my family financially as much as I need to do, right? And I kind of abdicated that, right? And I always think it's crazy because people will talk about, like the great Zig Ziglar um, and many others have talked about these different pillars or pedestals of focus of things that are important in your life, like spiritual and financial and health and family. And none of those, except for financial, have we been kind of convinced that we can just abdicate to somebody else. Like send your money off, take a deduction from your pay for the your entire working life, and your advisor will make sure that your money's there. And I realized, thankfully, very early on when I was barely 40, that wasn't going to happen, or at least it wasn't guaranteed to happen. And so that threw me into like my own personal financial world, which opened up my horizon and my perspective to realize that many other people are in the same boat. And they're really just kind of going along for the ride, hoping that things are there when they get to be 60 or whatever their date is. So I learned about real estate and tax efficiency, and that led me to eventually business ownership. And so I focus on, I'm helping my sons with business ownership. I'm helping many of my clients do that because that is truly the epitome of what America is and was back when we started. If there was something in the community that needed to be done, there was no Amazon. Somebody started a business and their family was compensated because of all the value they gave to those around them. And they felt like they could control kind of their own destiny. So that's how I got there, Sherrie.
Wow. So Gary, we could have a part two and part three the way we're going in this thing. But what are the latest things? What would you, our listeners and viewers, want them to know and how they can get in contact you and what you're looking to do right now, opportunities and things like that?
Yeah, so I want to attract business owners who have gotten through startup phase. They are legacy focused. Maybe they have a family. I mean, normally they have a family, but family or individuals who want to own their own real estate and their own businesses and want to pass along all the lessons they've learned, and maybe within a structure like a trust or something like that, so that they can kind of propagate things forward. That's who I want to attract, and they can reach out to Gary at GaryPinkerton.com. And what I would leave them with understanding is that if you look at what happened with gold prices recently, we are somehow pressing down on what should be really high inflation. Like there's been a 30% devaluation in the US dollar in the last year, less than a year, if you look at the change in gold prices, right? And so what happens is that gets held back and then it gets released, and not having real estate, not having hard assets like businesses will cause you to go backwards. And so I want to help people who have the concept where they want their own business, their own real estate, and they want to be able to capture that and in a way in a structure so that they can pass it forward to future
All right.
generations.
Appreciate it, Gary. Thanks
Thank
again.
you all so much.
All right. Go to storehousemediagroup.com to find out everything that's going on with Sherrie. Big news.